This episode of Speak Now, Hold Your Peace is brought to you in part by Green Sister Botanicals, plant-based hair and body care. Visit greensister.com for your hair and body care needs. Stop complaining about them $25, $35 games.
I'm doing great, Jerry.
You like to clap, right? You like to
Yeah.
clap? Yeah, it's all right. The brother is in the Richmond area, but he's from BK all day. Brother David, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, we up in here. We drinking. We popping bottles. Popping bottles. And I just don't give a damn. But when you come out your mouth with something like that, what you saying and all that stuff you say, then I'm gonna address it.
Welcome to Speak Now, Hold Your Peace, a live broadcast with real conversations about community social issues, politics, business, health, self-care, and more. We broadcast live on the Speak Now, Hold Your Peace Facebook group and the Speak Now, Hold Your Peace YouTube channel. And now, here's your host, Say What I Feel, Dre.
Welcome to Speak Now, Hold Your Peace. I had the mute button on. But welcome to Speak Now, Hold Your Peace. I am Andre Lewis, Say What I Feel, Dre. And today I have a special guest. It's Women's Month. And what better way to celebrate the last day of that month with my guest today. Today I have Kelsey Nicole Nelson. All right. Kelsey Nicole Nelson. Kelsey, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. It's an honor and privilege to join you on this great show. You got me in on the last day of Women's History Month, so it still counts.
Yes.
I'm going to have a good time. I'm excited. Again, You are a phenomenal host. I love the intro. The music had me going, so
Well, thank you. So I want you to do me one favor before we get started, Kelsey. I need you to hold your hand up like that.
All right.
Move them over just a little bit so everybody can see. Move them into the camera. Okay. Right there. You can hold them up just like this. Right there. All right. So everybody look at her hands, because when you see these hands, I'm telling you, those hands are in everything in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. I'm telling you not. I am kidding you not. She is in everything. She's doing big things. And it's like such an honor to even speak with someone who gives themselves to the community so much. So I just wanted y'all to know that her hands is in everything. So you can look at them now, but you ain't gonna see them later because her hands gonna be in everything else. All right.
It'll be popular next time. I promise. I didn't know we were doing that.
I caught you off guard. I'm sorry. Kelsey, tell us a little bit about yourself and your upbringing, because I know you grew up in the area. So just tell us a quick something about yourself.
Yes, I am from the area, DMV area, born and bred. Grew up in Montgomery County, so Montgomery County is home, a true MoCo girl. And I got my start here in the DMV area, and it's just honestly been an honor to work in my hometown. Many times they say you have to leave in order to come back, but for me, I've pretty much spent my whole entire life here. I am a graduate of the University of Maryland, so I'm still a little hurt right now that both our men and women got knocked out of the tournament, but we'll be back next week. Again, shout out to the first. Love University of Maryland. Went to the journalism school there, the Philip H. Merrill College of Journalism. That's kind of where I got my professional start in journalism. Did a bunch of internships in college. Went on to Georgetown University for grad school, and now I'm actually back at Georgetown as a capstone advisor. So now on the other side, right, in terms of faculty advising, also teaching at Doral College, intro to radio and podcasting, and then I work with our Washington football team. So yes. HTTR, HTT to the Washington football team, right? Always loving our burgundy and gold here in the DC area. And I also work with Fox Sports Radio, where I have my own sports talk show and radio show called Listen In With KNN that airs every Thursday and Saturday, live stream versions. And then audio shows drop every week. So that's a little bit about me. But I've been everywhere, Jerry. I worked for the Arena Football League. I wrote for SB Nation, worked with NASCAR. So basically, I feel like I've just had to get a lot of experience. But I love sports. That's a shout out to my dad. I have a girl dad. My dad went to Grambling State University, so shout out to HBCUs.
Oh, yeah.
Mississippi. So I grew up here, but I also spent my summers down south. So I feel like I'm a blend of like an East girl and a Southern girl blended together that just loves sports.
And that's a good thing because, you know, I always say a little bit of everything means you're marketable. And if you're just like everybody else, you know, why would they be interested in you? You know what I mean? So
you got to be unique, you got to be different, and we all have a different journey and story. And I'm just blessed. You know, my life has taken me in so many different paths, some I never even dreamed of, but I'm just thankful because I've learned along the way, get to meet people like you and do cool shows. And again, I get to cover what I love and I get to do what I love. So my job is truly me living out my passions each and every day. And what a great city to do it in. You know, our sports fans are very passionate and very real. And again, this is the hometown team. So you're talking to a girl that grew up going to games here, that's now covering the teams here professionally. So it shows you that anyone who's anyone can do it if you put your mind to it.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Before we get into some stuff, I want to talk about the pandemic and sports. Now, at the time when the pandemic came out, the first time it came out, sports is pretty much all we had. And they weren't playing sports, but they had, I've seen a couple of athletes playing Madden with each other and stuff like that. But you guys were a big important part of this, like us having some type of normalcy in sports. How did it feel to be part of that? Like we were depending, pretty much the sports world was depending on you to make us feel normal. Despite what was going on. How did that make you feel being part of that?
You know, it's crazy because we're in March and we think back to last March was really when this COVID-19 pandemic became real for most of us here in America. And you're right, sports has kind of always been that escape, that getaway for us. And we've always had them, lo and behold, till we saw this stoppage of sport. And then, you know, I remember one of the first big sporting events. You talk about people going online, but I know you also remember this, watching The Last Dance together, right? Watching MJ's best. And I remember, you know, doing watch parties and everyone was tweeting. And I remember being in my group chats because we all just needed something. And we watched that entire 10-part series. I think for sports journalists, we kind of had to take a step back, right? Because we didn't have live games. I'm someone who covers live games, right? I do sideline reporting for the Big East Digital Network. I've covered traditional football, etc. So lo and behold, now we're broadcasting, but from home, right? Much like me and you are doing. Right. But it was still, you had to find sports content to get out there. And so when you don't have live games going on, this is why journalists are storytellers. We still had to find a way to connect our fans and viewers to sports and connect them to different content stories. And so lo and behold, that's when I got to take my podcast, make it live stream versions, and still connect with many great guests from around the world, former athletes, journalists, whoever, celebrity guests, and tell their story. So we got to talk about the glory days, right? We got to talk about sports before they stopped, because people just wanted some type of connection. This is why we saw the rise of podcasts and live stream shows, because people were like, wait, I don't get to turn on my TV and see LBJ, you know, the Lakers uniform. You know, I don't get to watch everything that I've been watching. Lo and behold, last March, we got to Pride with March Madness, which is one of the biggest things in this entire country. And that's actually when I think the Terps would have won. I'm just going to put that out there. Not the Terps that got it together, but COVID-19 had different plans. But I think for me, it was just learning to adjust, right, to our new time period and be flexible. But that's what you always have to be as a journalist. I don't have a typical day ever, honestly, Dre.
Right,
but I still put content out there and connect with people. So I think COVID produced a new challenge for us. But again, we still had the story tell, and then we saw sports stop. But then, of course, we saw sports kind of slowly start to get back, right? We saw what happened with the bubble and the wubble, bringing basketball back. And there's a lot of lines around that, right? And then we saw the NFL, right? We saw the NFL, no preseason, right? I mean, everything kind of started to be different, but you still have sports that needed to continue and athletes that still were trying to make a living that still wanted to connect with fans. So if anything, I think I was able to connect fans closer with their favorite athletes because, hey, what were they doing? Absolutely nothing. Right. And so I on my show and they were able to talk and answer questions and just kind of show the other side of who they are, right? More than athletes. And so again, it was pivoting and being flexible, but also still finding unique ways to bring sports stories to our fans, viewers, and listeners, because COVID was hard on all of us.
Yeah.
It's kind of like our one escape, right? When you could still be able to see your favorite athlete, like see what he's doing on Instagram, right? Or see how he's finding unique ways to work out. It just makes you feel better. That's what sports has always been for society, right? It's always been just something that we just get to, right, and watch athletes.
Pure therapy. It's been pure therapy. Sports has always been therapy for millions of people. Like you
Yeah.
got to have your sports, the fantasy football and all that stuff. Fantasy football, it was great. I didn't play this year because I was just like so out of it because of the COVID thing. Like just like couldn't like everything that didn't mean nothing to me at the time. But because I was a little nervous about what was going on and stuff like that. But have you adjusted to the new way of life in terms of how COVID is affecting sports?
Yeah, it's so different, right? So for now, I will say I've adjusted enough, but I won't say I'm fully comfortable, meaning I can do these live stream interviews all day, Dre, with you. I enjoy doing live interviews with you, but I think the biggest thing to remember is that now we're not in locker rooms, right? I don't get those personal touches. I'm not in the media room right next to my colleagues. And so, for instance, one thing I got deprived of this year was Super Bowl, right? So I covered the Super Bowl in Atlanta, I covered it in Miami, and then this year, a lot of journalists had to do it virtually. It's a very different experience interviewing players on Zoom and asking coaches questions on Zoom than it is in person. And so I think for me, again, it's finding a unique way, but I won't say I fully got used to it, because one of the reasons I got into journalism and one of the reasons I love journalism is because the personal connection, the human connection. I'm talking with people, I'm hearing their stories. And there's nothing like covering a game in person. You can notice just so many small things in person that you don't always get to see on a TV broadcast, right? And especially for me when I'm sideline reporting, I need to be able to pick up on those type of issues. But then also I think for the journalism industry, we saw the loss of jobs, right? Because of COVID-19. And so I think, again, I've adjusted. It's different still, but I will tell you, me like many other journalists cannot wait until we're back in person. So one of the things I'm actually counting down for is the NFL draft. That'll be my first in-person large event that I do in a while. So I'm excited to go to Cleveland and be around people again, be around journalists, get to talk and interview players. Because, we've been deprived of that, Dre, for a year. So it's different. But Zoom is not the same personal connection. Like me and you in a studio, I think we have a good connection now, but when you're next to somebody, you feel their vibes, right? You closely see their facial expressions and their body language. And then it's easier to make a connection with someone when you don't have a camera sitting in front of your face, right?
Yeah,
so
you're right. You're right.
But you have to get adapt and pivot. It's just like a sports game. It doesn't matter how you win. You just want to win, right? So you got to find a unique way to score the basket, score the touchdown, score the goal, whatever you want to do in the industry.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's funny you mentioned like you want to be back in the studio. Yeah. I've been home working from home for a year, and we all have that person at our job that you just don't want to be around. Whether it's talking too much or whatever. But I even miss that person. Like I miss it. Don't get me wrong. I like being home, and if they gave me the option to stay home and work or go back, I'd stay home, but I do miss it, man. It's just different. It hits different when you don't have anybody around. Like, my first couple of weeks here, I'm just like looking around and it's this, it's not like the office and I can just go to the bathroom and I ain't got to worry about, locking the door or whatever, just stuff like that. So it's different. It does hit different, but I totally agree and I understand what you're saying.
It's true. Like for me, I even miss saying like hello, to our concierge and our security guards. Like we'd always have nice, friendly conversation.
Yeah.
I miss going to lunch with my coworkers. It's like you miss those everyday small things. And like you said, when you're home, I think at first you have to get used to it, and then you realize it's really just you a lot, and so you look forward to these conversations.
Yep.
But I think that's why after COVID and hopefully after everyone gets the vaccine shot and we're safer, I think we'll all look at life differently. Because I think before we might have took things for granted, right? That we're not going to take for granted after, because again, COVID switch and pivot and really made us realize what it's like to be isolated, right, for a long time period, and really just be fearful, right? Because for a while you don't know what you could do to try to not catch COVID, right?
Yeah.
And then if you COVID, it's like you had to just cross your fingers. It was that scary for many of us.
It was. Yeah. And I was clean. Let me tell you, and I still do this. And, I might be going overboard, but when I was in the supermarket, this was when COVID first started. A lady, she coughed. She covered her hand and coughed, and then she grabbed a can of something, looked at the ingredients, put it back on the shelf, and I said, "Oh no, I'm washing every grocery that comes in the house." So now every time I got a whole system for this. Like when we go grocery shopping, we sit a table out. One side is the clean, one side is the side that hasn't been disinfected yet. Disinfect, move it on. Disinfect, move it on. It's a whole system.
Wipe it off. I have a bunch of wipes at my apartment because you have to. And it's like, you didn't think about doing that before, and it's probably something we should have thought about before, but now, I mean, same thing. Nothing comes in my place without getting sanitized first.
Right,
Okay?
right, exactly. It's just like, and then, you know, the shoes come off at the door, you know, that was a given anyway. But, you know, it's just, it's precautions. Everything is a precaution now. And it's just like, I'm safe. I feel a little bit more comfortable now, though. But, you know, it was kind of tough. So.
Yeah, like you said, it's not easy, but again, we've learned certain things. So for me, one thing I loved right now is when I do get to go in person to restaurants. I'm like, why before weren't they giving us paper menus and then throwing them away? Or why before was I not seeing them sanitize the menu after each person? It's like something that should have been happening before, or even seeing hand sanitizer stations everywhere when you go to a restaurant or go to a store. It's like this should have been there, right? So if anything, it's made us get cleaner as a society. So that's the one positive, but it's like you learn a lot of different things now that I think we'll all adapt into our everyday lives now.
That's true. That's true. I want to jump into one thing I want to jump into is how did Listen with KNN start? How'd that start?
Yeah, so if you can't tell by now, I'm very opinionated. I'm very comfortable in my own skin. And Listening with KNN was actually started because one of my good friends, Brian H. Waters, was like, look, Kelsey, you have so much great content and things to say. You don't need to wait to go on other people's shows. Why don't you start your own thing? And at the time, he had his own podcast. I was like, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. And so essentially, it started as a concept. I pitched it to my boss, the sports director. He loves it. You know, I come up with the logo idea. I come up with what the show's going to be about. And it was really just something that I wanted to do because it was me. I wanted to tell sports stories how I didn't see them getting told. I wanted to be able to connect with people how I didn't see them getting connected with. So Listening with KNN, essentially, that's why it's called Listening with KNN. I'm asking everyone, all of my viewers, all of my listeners, just listen in with me. Essentially, you're eavesdropping in on a conversation that I'm having with a special guest. And you're right there along the way and you're able to ask questions. So I wanted people to feel a part of the show. I felt like there were so many sports shows that fans didn't get to feel a part of. That I think my voice as a Black woman was unique and my voice as Kelsey Nicole Nelson was unique. And so I wanted to bring the best of me. That meant, you know, bringing my personality. That meant bringing hard topics to the forefront, but also having fun. You're going to have fun on my show, but we will also talk about the hard conversations, the uncomfortable conversations, because we're moving along together. So it's something that, again, it was me finding a unique niche that I didn't see out there, that instead of waiting for a seat to be pulled up to the table, I decided to build my own table and grow my show my own way. So that's kind of how Listening with KNN started. And to see where it's gone and taken off to, and some of the guests I've had, I still do this, Dre. I still pinch myself.
Really?
Like, this is something I started years ago, you know, that it was just a podcast that was fun. And now it's a brand. I just launched my own apparel line for my podcast, Dre. Like, it's taking crazy places. And now even, you know, I'm able to use these clips in my reel because I'm just having great conversations, right? And it's something that when people first meet me now, like, Listening with KNN. And now everyone calls me KNN because it's essentially.
Hey, I was about to ask them, do they call you like K or KN or anything like that? Okay, so they call you KNN.
Everyone calls me KNN because it's like people know I go by my whole name.
Right.
And the story behind that is because Kelsey Nelson, I have a very common name. So my full name I go by, so I stand out and I'm unique. But everyone's like KNN, like literally, even people that don't know me call me KNN. Like, that's how common. And I don't mind it. I love it. It's me. It's my brand. It's something my parents will even call me. So I embrace it. But again, to have my show that bears my name as a Black girl from Germantown, it means a lot to me. It means a lot to have so many sports fans subscribe to my show each and every week, because it just shows I have a voice, and a voice that matters, and a voice that people support. And I've always wanted to be a voice for the people and by the people, right? Staying true to the DMV area, as we know.
Yes, you are. Yes, definitely.
But I hope people know that I'm a voice that's always been here, that resonates with them. And again, I ask my fans and viewers to give me topics for the shows, to tell me guests that they want to be on.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me still?
I can hear you now. You went out. It might be the storm. Hope not.
They weren't trying to let us be great, but we're still going to persevere.
We're going to keep going. That's right. So let me ask you this. You do a lot of things here.
Yeah.
Capstone advisor, Georgetown University, sideline reporter for the Big East Conference. And look at all of this stuff. Sideline reporter for DMVstream.com, host of Sports Smarts podcast, instructor, communications manager. You do it all. What motivates you to get into to do all of this?
Yeah, you know, I have to say it's my parents. Like from a young age, my parents always told me that I could do and be anything that I wanted to be. My parents moved to the DMV area from Mississippi specifically so I could have a good education. One of my favorite quotes I always preach, Dre, is education is the key to unlocking the world, a passport to freedom. That's from Oprah Winfrey. And so I felt when I was in school getting educated, it was so I could do anything. And I've never been one to be placed in a box. I never like when people try to say the status quo or say you can only do one thing. I live one lifetime. Why would I only do one thing? I want to do as much as I can to the best of my abilities. And I think if I'm able to handle that load, which is not for everyone, you have to be a multitasker, but I'm doing what makes me happy. And at the end of the day, I can't be defined by just one job. I want people to remember me as just doing what I loved. And so for me, Dre, it's being able to act on all of my different interests, right? I'm more than a sports reporter. I'm more than a sports journalist. I'm an instructor, right? I'm a daughter. I'm so many more. So why would I ever just be defined by one thing? And so for me, again, it's just living out everything that I've wanted to do.
Right.
And adding titles, but I have different titles again, because I'm multidimensional, right? I can't just be placed in one simple box or one simple silo. I like to think of being, I'll call myself, multi-gifted, and I want to share my gifts, right? And that's why I do different things, because I think the man above, my Lord and Savior, God has blessed me in my lifetime to call me in different purposes, right? I think I have different purposes that makes me find my purpose in each and every job that I do. So again, just blessed to have that. It also doesn't hurt to have multiple streams of income. I'll also put that out there.
Yeah.
And I'm just doing the jobs that I love.
Yeah, speaking of jobs, when I was in DC, by the way, I did live in Germantown for about 6 months.
Shout out to Germantown, born and bred there.
Yeah, definitely. It was such. When I moved there, I was so happy that it was. I think it was closer to Walmart too.
I know exactly where I grew up, because I say, look, if you live where a Walmart is, you're doing something.
Yes, you are.
You are, and we had a Walmart and a Target. So
yes, absolutely. I used to go to Fredericksburg and all the way up 270. Yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
The struggle of trying to get into the city and out the city.
That's right. So when I was living in DC, living in that Maryland, DC, Virginia area, I was a teacher. I was a teacher at Southeast Academy, a charter school in DC.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I know there's challenges, with charter schools all the time. The challenges of meeting AYP, just making sure that they're following guidelines and stuff like that. Now I know you work with charter schools. How was that? How was that working with the charter schools?
Yeah, I absolutely love working with charter schools. I think many people don't fully understand them, but they are public schools, and they're giving our children a different way of instruction. And I'll tell you, there's good schools and there are bad schools, and this is all schools. But I've loved working. I got to work with the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools. I also get to work with Richard Wright Public Charter School for Journalism and Media Arts, which is in Washington, D.C. So they're cropping our next brand of journalists. And shout out to Marco Clark, actually, of that school. He is a Black male charter school leader that started it. But the reason why I like charter schools is because they can give kids a different course of instruction. Talk about not a one size fits all. Not all children, Dre, learn the same. One of the best things I got to do in college was work with the America Reads, America Counts program. And I was in PG County Public Schools. I was at Templeton Elementary, helping children make sure that they could close the achievement gap, making sure that they could read. When you go into schools, and you've worked in schools, I've worked in DC through the musicianship at Wilson High School. When you've been in the classroom, you understand that too many children are being left behind. So again, I think charter schools offer a different way of learning. I think charter school teachers could be innovative, and they can usually be younger, and just different things that they're doing. But again, it's just trying to make sure our babies are graduating and are able to access opportunity, are able to access their American dream, whatever they might be. So I'm a supporter of charter schools. But I think I've learned so many great students and so many great teachers and people in the charter school movement, so many great teachers. And again, I'm just honored and blessed to be a part of it. And so I think once you learn about charter schools, it's going to be hard not to support them. There's just so many great examples of children being rock stars. Again, Richard Wright Public Charter School for Journalism and Media Arts. I'm meeting kids in high school, Dre, that are producing full-length documentaries in high school.
That's good.
And Black and brown kids at that. I think it's so good, and it's going to give them an upper leg up when they get to college, so that they can get these journalism degrees or be whatever that they want to be. So again, I'm just a strong supporter of them. If you don't know about charter schools, get educated on them, learn about them in your communities, because again, it's just a different way to teach. There's not one way every child learns. and we need to support and get behind that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How was it working at, was it Wilson High School?
Yeah, so I worked
How
for
was
a
that?
program, a musicianship, and I loved it. I was a media instructor. When I tell you to this day, I'm so thankful for, they still will email me sometimes and check in with me. They'll see me on social media too, but it's just great to see what all my students are doing. But, Wilson High School in DC, obviously a very great high school. And you just learn about so many just passionate children. And again, DC kids that just want to be great, that just wanted that extra push. And they saw me, as someone, as a mentor, or Auntie Kelsey, or whatever they wanted to call me. But it was great just getting to work with that next generation. So working with the musicianship, I was just loving, again, introducing these young kids to media and what it was, showing it's more than just broadcast, seeing them do their first interviews. We did men on the street interviews in Tinleytown, DC, and it was so great to see them get over their nerves of just meeting random people and just saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, can I talk to you? I'd like to interview you. And when you
Right.
see a child grow from the beginning of the program to the end, it's unlike anything else. And this is why I love
Yeah.
teaching, because I learn as much from them, Dre, as they learn from me. It's something always new, and the bonds and connections that you get with children, it's unmatched.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
My babies when I was teaching.
Yeah. 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 They were my babies too. Like, I got in contact with, one of the parents, that, whose child I used to teach, because they actually taught with me in the school. They were an assistant, and she
Nice.
showed me a couple of pictures of their kids now, and I'm just like, wow, that's the kid I taught. Like, wow. And it's amazing how they go from this to fifth grade to having a beard. Like,
Yeah.
when
They
did you
grow
get that?
fast.
I mean, I
They
know,
grow
yeah, I'm like, I know I've been gone for a while, but when did you get that? When you start getting hair on your hey, Mr. Lewis, what? Man, you better pipe that voice down a little bit and show some respect for this OG. Hey, Mr. Lewis, you out your mind, boy. Don't be coming at me sticking your chest out. You don't sit down. But it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing how they just like, they don't stay young forever, and my mindset is these babies are the babies, and they're gonna stay young,
Yes.
and it's
Then
not like that.
they're taller than you, and I'm like, wait, I
Yeah,
was looking down at you last time. Now I'm sitting here looking up.
yeah, breathing all heavy, all over me, and I'm like, hey, how you doing?
Funny.
So yeah,
But it just shows you how fast time goes. But again, it just shows you too, just those relationships. And I think all of us can probably point to a favorite teacher, our favorite counselor that pushed us to be greater, pushed us to be more, and just really impacted our lives. And that's the value you have as a teacher. And good teachers are needed. More teacher diversity is needed. So I think it's also great that our students got to see people that look like them in the
yeah,
leadership.
yeah,
That's not always the case, and people need role models. Children need role models. The world needs role models. So it's just great to be.
absolutely, absolutely. Let me ask you this. I want to talk about women in sports.
Let's do it.
What are some of the challenges that you had to face being a woman in the sports media?
So I think this is something that women in sports are always facing. These challenges. All right, there we go. See, I
All
was
right,
like, wait, I'm
we're
good.
good.
All right.
We're good.
I had to pause for the challenges. So,
That's fine.
working in sports, it's so many challenges that you're always facing from the beginning of your career till the day you finish your career. And it's because society still needs to advance forward. So you can look at me, Dre, and tell that I'm a Black woman working in sports, right? So I'm a double minority, being that I'm African American and being that I'm a woman. So early on as a woman, you still have people still to this day, right? I'm channeling. And it shows you that people will still say, oh, a woman can't know sports. It's like, what do you mean a woman can't know sports? I'll challenge you to sports talk any day of the week and talk sports with you. I grew up with sports, but you'll still have just ignorant men and sometimes women too that will say that and just believe that anything you say is wrong simply because of your gender, right? So you have people that won't even let you in the door because of that. You're constantly judged on how you look, right? Objectivity, everyone's talking about your body weight, your face. Oh, she's too
Uh-oh.
And so this is a fight that we're constantly trying to have. And it's hard, Dre, because again, you just go through so many different things. You always have naysayers, always people telling you what you're doing wrong. Again, some people that just will critique you because they don't like your look. They don't like how you sound. You don't sound like the males. And then just always questioning your why. Why is she there? How did she get there? And it's like they're not trying to support you, right? So you really, sometimes it gets lonely. Sometimes, quite frankly, you feel alone. And so as a woman in sports, it's really finding those allies and mentors and advocates, Dre, that will advocate for you, that know you to the best of your ability, and will always push you when you have a rough day. So as a woman, again, you just face so many different things. You're fighting for equal pay. You're fighting just negative, Twitter finger people that like to say just negative things about you and comments all the time and quite frankly disrespect you. You have people always questioning your why and always questioning, your credibility.
Right.
It's like, no, where did you get here? You can look at my resume. You can look at my experience. And so I think it's just different things that you're always battling. That every day you kind of have to push in the back of your mind, know you belong, know you're meant to be there, because again, it's your purpose, and you're not going to let anyone deter you from being on the road or the plan that God has set for you.
Right. That's a good point too, and people need to know that, because times have changed. That stuff about women not being equal, it should have never been a thought in the first place, but unfortunately, we live in a society where people still think that, and it's a shame that they think that, because they're missing out.
They are. Yeah. Some of your best commentary comes from female commentators.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the GOATs, Doris Burke, and like what Doris Burke has done for the game. And it's like, if anything, I want different perspectives and different viewpoints and opinions, right? I don't want people to try to place me in the box of just being a moderator. No, I have thoughts and opinions that I can offer. I can talk game analysis. I can also interview players on the sidelines. I've done play-by-play. It's, again, women can do it all and some. So I'll say it again, women can do it all and some. We just adjust and tilt our crowns different ways to conquer the different tasks that we want to do. But it's 2021. If you're still not with women being in sports, women are half the sports fans now. If you look at the NFL, they're about 51% of the fan base. That's females. This is why NFL teams are catering to female fans and doing different things, because women love sports. If you're like me, I grew up in a sports family, in a sports town. I grew up a tomboy, right? So it's always been a part of me. So the fact that people try to separate that from me and tell me I do not belong or I shouldn't be there, it's crazy and mind-boggling. But again, thank gosh I grew up in a strong family household. That will not break me. And also those naysayers and all the different challenges you get through, Dre, it pushes me, right?
Yeah.
It pushes me to just continue to achieve my goals, because I also know for every person that doesn't support me, there's someone that does.
Motivational too. Those who the hate motivates you to be great,
Exactly. Like Mary J said it best, right? Don't need to hate.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. I spent 6 years, about 6 years living in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, right? And I've never went to the White House. You covered, this was when Obama was there. I want to put that out there first. When Obama was in the White House, you covered the national golf event. Is that what it was? Is that the correct name for it?
I know what you're talking about. Yep.
How was that? And when you went you actually went in the White House?
Yeah. So I'll tell you this, and it's so. Again, this is something that DC people will tell you. I think people automatically assume if you're from the area that like you're all of a sudden just being in the White House. And I'll tell you, even before I talk about the White House, this is why the Capitol insurrection and the Capitol riots and what we saw on January 6th, it's why it hurt us just so bad, because the Capitol, the White House, that's been so sacred, right? And then I just think about all the security I've had to go through when I've been through the Capitol, right? I would never even think of doing anything crazy. This is a government building. This is something that we respect. And this is something that's in someone's city, right? DC is home to many people. And to see the way that it was disrespected was hard for many of us to watch. But I'll go back now to the White House and just say, like, covering a championship team in the White House is unlike any other thing. It's like you get there and you're just like, wow, this is one of the most powerful buildings in the entire world. This is where the president lives, and I'm about to meet the president. And then lo and behold, you have the best sports team in the country going there to get honored, get their rings. They give the president a jersey. It's unlike anything. Again, because going to the White House in itself, and if you were lucky to be one of the few that have gotten to do that, it's a treasurable moment. Again, you're one of the most important buildings in the entire country and in the entire world, and you're there to do the job that you love, right? So I remember like my parents were calling everybody like, "Oh my God, my daughter's going to the White House. She's going to the White House," because that's how big it is, right?
Right.
And it's a sacred honor. It's a big honor. And to me, if you're a journalist that gets that privilege, and I'll call it a privilege to do it, it just means you've done your job to the best of your ability. So for me, getting to go to the White House and getting to cover the Cubs there, getting to cover the Minnesota Lynx there, it was unlike anything else. And this is when our former president, or what some will call our forever president, President Barack Obama, was in the White House. So, everybody wanted to meet him. He's just good with the people and the crowds and the fans. And especially because he's a sports fan and like really knows sports, it was just all the better, right?
He got a game too. He can play, he can shoot. He's nice. He's nice with it. His jump is nice.
Look, I'm not challenging Barack in anything because I'm not going to be embarrassed and be on the wrong side of it, but it's true. Like, it was just a good time. And so I think those are like, that's one of my favorite sports memories is covering, sitting in that White House press briefing room.
Right.
Getting to, get those memories, see the players' families, see their faces, when they're looking at their rings or, it's unlike anything else because it's that high and that top of an honor. So that's definitely one of my favorite memories. And it was my first time in the White House. Even though I grew up here in the DMV area, that was my first actually inside the White House. So just talk about how special and privileged that was, getting my chance to do that in my 20s.
Wow, that's great. That's great. That's big. That's big time. Yeah, you ain't you somebody if you've been in the White House. Anybody ever heard that saying? Anybody who somebody's gonna be there, you're that somebody.
It's crazy again because you can grow up here your entire life and never step foot in the White House. You'll pass by it a lot, but you'll not actually be in there. And so to actually be in there, again, it's like you're like, this is the White House.
Yeah, and it's a lot bigger than what it looks too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So incredible experience. Met some great journalists there, got to do just great stories from there. But again, once you do that, look, your parents love you forever because they can brag about you forever to your aunties and your uncles, like, hey, he made it to the White House.
Right. Exactly. Yep. So I want to shift a little bit to racism in sports. Now, as a Black woman, of course, you have to deal with things a little different, and you're treated different because you are a Black woman. But there's also the racist part, the racist side of it, where you are an African American woman. Now, I know what was it? I think it was the NASCAR diversity class that you were part of.
Yes.
You got to tell me how that was, because I'm just picturing an African American woman in NASCAR. I don't see too many Black men in NASCAR, but an African American woman in NASCAR, and you're actually part of the diversity class. So what is this, like 2000? It's like how many? About 8 years ago.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Now you're aging me, but yes. Oh, I can't believe it's been that long. I'm like, oh my, where does time go?
It does go fast. How was that? Well, how was that? Were you accepted? Was everybody accepting you? Or did they give you the side eye?
Such a great question. And I'll tell you, I specifically applied to the NASCAR diversity internship because I wanted to challenge myself, right? In life, I think you really learn who you are and you learn about adversity when you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, right? And so for me, I wanted to learn the sport of NASCAR. You're right. I grew up, I'm a Black woman, and that's not to say Black women don't know NASCAR, but where I grew up in the DMV, NASCAR was not a sport that was highly paid attention to, right? In the DMV area, you pretty much got to go to Richmond to go to a NASCAR race. Lo and behold, if you know about the DMV, you're not usually going out to Richmond to watch NASCAR. And I always wanted to do something that would make me different. Right. And I thought about it, what you exactly just said, being a Black woman, so being someone that you don't usually see in NASCAR, how different that would make me, how that challenge would help me find out more about who I am and what I wanted to do in life. And so lo and behold, I get accepted to the NASCAR diversity internship. I'll never forget it because I find out right during finals and they're like, hey, can you come down in 3 days for orientation? And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, wait, come down where? And they're like, well, the orientation is going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is one of the places where NASCAR has an office. And I'm like, wow, I'm really about to work for NASCAR. And I'll tell you, I got to work with their integrated communications team. And working for NASCAR was just a dream come true. I had to move to Charlotte. It was my first time living full time out of the DMV area, other than my childhood when I lived in Mississippi, but it was different because I lived with family. So I had to move to Charlotte. We did the hotel orientation, and then I had to find housing. So my first week of NASCAR, I was actually sleeping on the couch of a friend I made at NASCAR orientation. And NASCAR was different. I'll tell you, they have the office in Daytona and Charlotte. I was in Charlotte. If you've been to Charlotte, Charlotte's a pretty diverse city, but I will say I was accepted with open arms. And this is specifically why NASCAR had this opportunity, because they were trying to increase diversity. So they have the NASCAR Diversity Internship Program, and they also have Drive for Diversity, which is where you have your diverse drivers a part of NASCAR. And for me, I became the lead head intern, so I'm planning events. We're meeting different people of color and not of color in the organization. But like one thing, especially if you look at NASCAR now, their legal council is led by all women, and a lot of those women are women of color. So you have to look into the sport, and then lo and behold, I'm able to talk about the sport now. One of the few Black women, Joy, that can actually talk to the sport of NASCAR, having worked for it. But for me, it was an experience again that put me in a place that I hadn't known. I had to live in a new city. I had to learn a whole new sport. Again, NASCAR was not a sport that I followed. I got to go to my first NASCAR race, right? The Charlotte 500. Unlike anything else. If you've never been on pit row, I challenge you to go to pit row. Pit row is just, you put the headphones on because it's so loud and you see the tire changers. And this is actually where I learned a lot about NASCAR and their diversity efforts. A lot of the crew guys are guys that either used to play in the NFL or tried to get to the NFL. When I tell you they have a combine experience to be those guys, it's incredible. And the NASCAR had also been doing some recruiting for the crew guys, Dre, from HBCU schools. So Brianna Daniels, who went to an HBCU, I actually got to interview her before she blew up. She was a Black NASCAR tire changer, the first female to do that, right? And so you get these unique and different stories, I think, that most people don't think about. But I'll be honest with you, when I went to my first NASCAR race on pit row, there were people like looking at me and my fellow diversity NASCAR interns like, they were like, wait,
they doing a double take.
And when I walk into a room, and I say this all the time about challenges I face, when I walk into a room, I'm a Black woman first. And many times that's how I describe myself, because that's what people see, right? They see I'm a woman, and then my skin. They see all this melanin in my skin. And so for me, it was again, getting myself comfortable in uncomfortable situations, being comfortable and standing strong when you feel so many people's eyes on you, looking at you, watching your every single move. But again, I think that experience was great. I had so much support. I got to do a guest appearance on Sirius XM NASCAR radio. So talk about someone who didn't know the sport getting to do that. It was incredible. And I'm thankful for that experience. Charlotte will forever have a special place in my heart. NASCAR will always have a place in my heart. And I think we need more diverse voices, right? NASCAR wants to be an American sport that everyone's a part of and involved in. Then you're going to need diverse media members a part of it. And so lo and behold, when the Bubba Wallace situation happened, right, best believe who did a lot of people want to talk to, because I got to talk to the point of the racism that the sport has faced, right? When I was there, I did see Confederate flags in the stands, right? And that had been a part of some NASCAR culture, right? And there was a comfortability in some NASCAR fans. And again, having family from Mississippi and having spent summers in Mississippi, talk about just a symbol of hatred that hurt. And so glad Mississippi got rid of that Confederate flag emblem on their state flag. But, this is, again, something that I had to kind of be the best person that I could be. And this is what NASCAR prepared me for. Because in sports, again, you're not going to always have people running to your aid and wanting to make you comfortable. I remember being on Super Bowl Radio Row, and Dre, everyone could find me because I was like the Black woman on Super Bowl Radio Row. Because talk about lack of diversity, there's not many Black women in sports talk radio, right? It's still the good old boys in sports radio. But having gone through NASCAR again and having been in situations where, I think people were just surprised to see me, but again, having support from NASCAR, but just the curiosity in people's faces when you say you work for NASCAR and they turn around and look at you and they're like staring at you and like wanting your answer to change. It's like, yeah, I work there. I do a pretty good job too. It was incredible. And again,
that's good.
Able to go to the races in Richmond and cover those and just talk to the sport that's trying to diversify and create change.
That's good. That's great. It's good to hear that. And I think everybody needs to hear that. That we just got to be diverse and keep our minds open to different things. Because if you don't try anything, you're not going to do anything.
You won't learn. Life is about challenging yourself, right? And you have to put yourself in a situation to know if you can do it. I might have took that situation and just been like, you know what, I can't do this. But then maybe working in sports wasn't for me, because working in sports, you're going to be tasked with just different challenges and different, like your boss might say, hey, I want you to go cover opening day. Hey, I do want you to travel to Richmond to cover this NASCAR race. So being in sports, again, you have to get yourself used to just covering a variety of things, being flexible and learning on the go. And that's exactly what I learned from NASCAR.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to wrap up this show. I want to ask you what's in the future for you and the things that you have planned, and like what's in the future? What can we look forward to?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What's that in the future? It feels like I just feel like it
was not in the future.
This interview feels like everything's happening, but it's a good thing. Again, I'm blessed. And so I have a couple projects. For one, I'm excited to be launching an all-new sports show. It's called Beyond Sports with KNN. It will be on Sirius XM Radio. I got the logo created. Going to start promoting that soon. And it's called Beyond Sports because, as we've all seen, sports touches every phase of life, right? It touches culture, politics, and so much more. And so we're going beyond sports. We're moving the needle, moving the lens, and finding that intersection. And so we're going to have those difficult and hard conversations on that show. Again, more than athletes, and sports, again, is intersected in everything. Do not say sports is not political, because sports are political.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
About history. So that's what we're going to talk about on that show. Again, super excited to do that through Sirius XM Slam Radio. Also, I'm preparing now, so doing a bunch of pro day coverage and looking at all the notes, because I'll be going to the NFL draft in Cleveland. Super excited about that.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Along for my coverage of that. It's just going to be what a draft class, and then just trying to prepare for this new NFL season where hopefully we'll get fans back. It will be great. And then with my show, I have just a lot more content coming out, a lot more special guests that I hope everyone tune in for, from all walks of life and from all different sports. And so I think this is most exciting. Finishing up Georgetown, I have 2 students this semester. We're getting their thesis papers to the inline, which is going to be super.
Wow, that's good.
I would tell people, just keep on the lookout. I have a lot of great things going on. You have to follow me on social media, because you just never know what's coming. But I have a few surprises. I think people will like that, Dre. But again, it's just been an honor to be on. I will be doing a lot more shows.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we got to do another show one day. Give them your Instagram information, any type of information that you want to let them know. How can they contact you in terms of following you?
Well, I hope they do follow, all right? Lots of great content. I'm on social media, Twitter and Instagram, The Real K Nelson. On Facebook, it's just my name, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And then, of course, if you want any of my information, or to email me or to reach out to me, just go to my website, kelseynicolenelson.com. It has my contact information. You can go get some Listen In with KNN merchandise that I just launched, and so much more. All of my live shows are also posted there, as well as the audio shows. So I highly encourage everyone to support that and push that. And again, connect with me. Talk sports with me. I love it. We'll talk Final Four coming up. We'll talk 17-game football season and how they
yeah. I gotta have you back to talk some sports too. Yeah.
Well, see, look, we gotta talk sports, right? We'll talk NBA and what we think the playoff picture will look like, and just so much more. And I love that, and especially DMV sports, so DC sports. Yes, we'll definitely be talking about. We'll be talking about this Russ Stephen A. beef and everything else. All
right. So Kelsey, I want to thank you for so many different things. I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for the community service that you give. I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for being part of the Alliance. I want to thank you for being a guest speaker at Shady Grove Middle School. There's so many things that you've done, and they just can't go unnoticed. And that's why I had you on here, because you deserve to get that recognition. You don't ask for it, but you deserve it, because it's something to talk about. We don't have enough people and good people like you to do this stuff. So not everybody can do it. So
thank you so much.
Thank you. And I also wanted you. The guests. I mean, the viewers don't know. The viewers do not know that you are an AKA.
Well, I saw you were my 9 family, Dre. I don't think I missed that.
Yeah. Oh, you saw the intro. That's right. Yeah. So.
Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Yes. So I had to, let them know that you are an AKA. So I'm gonna let you get out of here, but you can't get out of here that easy. You got 3. You're gonna play a game, 3 questions, and you got to answer them all.
All right.
If you need a hint, I'll give you a hint, but they're not hard. So I'm sure you'll know these things. All right. So you ready? All right.
Ready.
So here we go. Question number 1. Let me see here. Let me just get let me make sure I got my answers here. Well, not my answers so much, but my little questions. Where is it at here? I don't want to give you these. Okay, there we go. All right. So what Washington football team quarterback made significant history when they won the Super Bowl? Now, you know, quarterbacks for the Washington football team have won Super Bowls, but which one made significant history by winning the Super Bowl?
You know, I know this one because my dad is a graduate of Grambling State University. So I'm going with my guy, Doug Williams, being the first Black quarterback.
And she gets it. She gets it. Ding, ding, ding. All right. So you good. Okay. So here's the next one. You want to know. You want to know, Kelsey. What Washington football team quarterback said, "You like that"?
I go with my guy out in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins.
Indeed.
Until we had to let him go.
All right. So look, this is the last one. And if you don't get this one, you're still a winner because you got 2 out of 3. So this is it's a hard one because it's so many different answers you can give me. So
okay.
What is one of the best spots to eat in DC, pretty much as far as the urban community?
Ooh, okay. So
you can get 1 hint if you need it, but go ahead. You get 2 guesses at this.
If we're going historic DMV, I think you're gonna say Ben's Chili.
She is good. She's good. And the crowd goes crazy. Yo.
Beyonce hair flip.
Oh man, I thought you was gonna get stunned on that one. Maybe give it a second answer, but you did good. You did good. So Kelsey, I want you to stay on when we go off, but I just want to thank you for coming on. It's been more than fun. I hope everybody enjoyed it because you gave a lot of knowledge, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate the Black woman more than everything in the world. So thank you so much, and thank you for being on the show. Everybody else, I'll see you next week. Kelsey, stay on, and everybody else, I'll see you next week, and we are out of here.
See you later. Bye.